Welcome to the Viwe Extraordinaire. I seated well, I drinks on hand. Let's begin.
Take it all before you take a sip in life. Take it all, baby, ta-ta. Give me more than cigarettes and wine. Give me more than candy dreams, don't make me waste no time. Give me everything, baby.
So can we skip to the good part?
Welcome to another episode of The Breakdown. We are back for another year. Okay, this is the second episode, but yeah, we are back. And today we will talk to a small town girl chasing a dream. All the way from Queenstown. She recently released her debut project this year called Viwe Ngoku, and I had the pleasure of actually meeting her. It's the first artist I've ever met, by the way, because most of the time it's been on the internet. So I've had the pleasure of meeting her, and now you get to meet her as well. Viwe, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on your platform.
Yeah.
It's always so nice to just talk to people who are in the community, the R&B community. But yeah, I'm good. You know, I'm tired. It's been a long day, but I'm good. I'm in a good place. How are you?
I'm great. It's just a bit cold out here, but yeah, I'm great. So you're from a small town, Queenstown, and there are not a lot of R&B stars or generally entertainment people over there, you know. Maybe in the small cities and the smaller metros, I would think of Silk Slade, Angie Santana, Cindy Messina, but that's about it, you know. You've once said that Queenstown is not a great environment for creativity, you know. What are the issues in detail and what are the possible solutions for it?
I think there are a lot of creative people in the Eastern Cape in general, right? I think you'll find them everywhere, but I think we all kind of migrated to Johannesburg for better opportunities, because the entertainment space there is pretty rigid. I wouldn't say you can't make it, but I think you probably have to make it like in a specific industry, almost maybe house or Mapiano now or Gom on some level, you know. And there are some, you know, vocalists who lend their voices to those genres and enjoy those genres. But I think for an R&B girl who loves, you know, the romance and the crooning and that kind of thing, it's a little bit difficult. I mean, if you're not a Zahara or a Simpiwe Dana or a Thandiswa Mazwai, who are in their own rights huge Xhosa artists, right? If you're not there, if that's not your lane, like if you're trying to sing R&B, like it's very difficult. And I knew that, you know, I knew it because when I was in Queenstown, it was a high school experience. And whenever I would perform in high school plays or high school variety concerts, which we used to have back in the day, I'd probably be one out of 20 girls singing a song that's R&B based or soul based. So it was kind of obvious from the point that, you know, it's not necessarily a conducive area. What I think needs to change, I think we need to start looking at our smaller towns, at the spaces that we come from differently as artists, as business people. I think we're so inundated with the idea that you can't make it there. And I'm a victim of that too. But I think it's important that we, you know, create new institutions, create new life, create with the knowledge that we have from Johannesburg, the knowledge that we have of the industry here. I think it's very important that we start those movements ourselves. And I think everyone's just afraid. And I guess the solution would be me going, you know, once I get where I need to get, being like, okay, how many people do I know that are talented? And how many young girls, young boys who are wanting to be in this space can I influence? Can I try and put some sort of platform on? But I also believe like I can't give what I don't have. So it's it's really about getting there first, and then I will definitely do my best to bring out that in the Eastern Cape as well.
Yeah. And as a child, you were in the choir. You've once spoken about how you classically trained. Was this a school choir, church choir? What kind of choir was it?
It was a school choir. It was it has a school choir, chamber choir actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was a pivotal part of that choir. We actually recorded an album.
Serious?
Hilarious, but beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. So you're not a stranger to this, you know.
No. I mean, but I mean, chamber music is so different. Like, it's about, you don't like imagine the churches, like the Catholic churches, the boys singing. You know, when the boys sing in soprano and it's clean and there's no like nothing complicated. It's just really clean, and it taught me how to breathe. It taught me how to like pronounce words. It taught me discipline. What I need to drink before I sing, what will make my voice better on stage. It helped me with nerves. Like once I get on stage, the nerves go away because of that training. So yes, I'm a choir girl from primary all the way to high school.
Yeah, classically trained. What were you taught also in school?
Yeah, so I did music as an extra subject, in high school. I was selected as one of the singers. There was two of us, and some people did piano, some people did, violin, but we did vocal. And I used to have a class every week where I'd go and do my scales and sing Bach and sing Mozart and enter competitions, Eisteddfods. And yeah, I mean, that was really my life in high school. One of my extramurals was, going and going to class. Like while people are going to English or maths, I just go to the back and go meet my music teacher, who I really think like was one of the most pivotal people in just allowing me to nurture the voice, and a big inspiration for me till this day.
Yeah, and you've spoken about how you entered and won competitions. At what age was that? And you still remember the name and how it went?
The competitions?
Yeah, the singing competition.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we had inter-schools competition. It was called the Eisteddfod, right? Yeah. And every single year from grade 8 all the way to grade 12, you could enter. And there were different categories, whether it be poetry or art or an act, or whatever it is that you felt like you were good at, you could compete with all the schools in the Eastern Cape. And I did that from grade 8. I started with silver all the way, went up to gold, and our choir got platinum almost every year.
Oh, wow.
So so it was really like a great experience just to hear what was happening in other schools, how other people were singing, but also just the competitiveness rather. Of music, which I liked. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's duel and let's see like who will crumble under the pressure. And I suppose like that's something I've carried with me till now.
Right. Yeah. You've once said that your cousins are actually the people that introduced you and made you love R&B. Are you still close to them?
Sadly, not that much. So when I was growing up, I grew up without my mom and my dad. My mom was working. My dad, I kind of only met later on in life.
Yeah.
And I was with my aunt at home in Queenstown. And we had a number of cousins who would come and just babysit, and just make sure that we're fine. And because it was quite a lot of us cousins, young cousins who were there. And the younger cousins, and even one of them actually passed on who lived with us.
Sorry.
But a lot of them would come and they would just be sitting there like crying over boys, and we'd all be like, "You guys are so weird. Why are you crying over boys?" Like,
Yeah, you didn't understand it.
And the songs they were playing, and the songs they were playing was so sad. Like I just remember, what's that song by Brandy? Have You Ever? I remember Have You Ever being one of the first songs I've ever learned. Or who's this? I used to. What's the song? It was a group, All for One. So they were old school R&B.
R&B, yeah.
And because I think I linked the emotion to the song, I appreciated it more. I was like, oh, I like this genre.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like any other genre. You know, with rap, it was kind of always aggressive, and I loved rap in its own way. But R&B spoke to my softer self. It lied to me. You know, it told me that there's a guy who's gonna love me forevermore, and I was like, yes, you know.
Yeah.
And all of these artists I met and I heard through, you know, them crying, them lamenting, them being picked up, you know, outside, and all you're hearing is Jozi, you know, and it's like, yo, the guy who's coming to fetch you is listening to Jozi, and I love that community. I just love living in that bubble, you know. So yes, kudos to some of my cousins who, you know, I do talk to them. I do say hi here and there, but they're doing their own thing. But the biggest influence passed on, and I'll always like give her that. Like, she really did introduce me to the singers, you know, the people who wrote from their hearts, you know, the Aretha's, and I loved it.
Yeah. And I noticed that you hardly talked about, you know, siblings or fatherly figures in your life. It's mostly about your cousins and your mother. Were those the people that you mainly grew up with?
Yeah. I grew up pretty much with my cousins, and shout out to my cousins, the ones my age. They were really important, just from a lonely level. From my mom's side, I was the only child. And so the house was filled with like cousins and nephews and nieces and aunts, which was good, you know. But from my father's side, I met my father, and I've never really even said this on a public platform, but I met my father when I was 16, and I established a relationship with him from there. And then I met my siblings, you know, and I've got 12 siblings from my dad's side.
Wow. Okay.
You know. And we're all sort of different nationalities, different languages, different ethnicities, you know, and it's been amazing also just learning from them. I've got a lot of big sisters as well, and from 16 onwards, they kind of showed me the ropes as well, musically as well, you know, so yeah.
Novi, uphi, ugoduka nini, uhlele ntoni apho? Kaloku ugoduka zizikelelo ekhaya, siyakukhumbula. Goduka.
You've said that your mom, initially, she was not your biggest supporter when it came to music, you know. Why do you think the older generation is like that? Because I think everyone can relate to it, you know. And do you think we'll be better? Do you honestly think that, you know, us, you know, your maybe your circle of people, do you think we'll be better in helping our kids, you know, embrace their creative sides?
Yes, I think we're going to be better, but I think we're going to have to show them. You know, I don't think it's going to be a thing of like, oh no, you can do music, but there's no one in the family who's actually done it successfully. I think that was the biggest thing for my mom. Also, was like, all of the examples I have of musicians, they're all like druggies, or they've been cheated out of their monies, or they're dating, you know, too many guys, or like there's this whole stereotype. And I mean, my mom grew up on Brenda. My mom grew up on, you know, all these really older South African artists who now, when you think about it, you know, like Brenda's discography is huge, but she's no longer here. And that's one of the fears she had. And and you know, because the creative artists do have that bad, you know, omen on them. But I think we can change it. I think we are going to change it. But I think it takes guts and it takes bravery. And we have to actually do the thing. I think kids learn by imitation. They learn by what you show them. And I want my kids to also have that option, not just as a dream. You know, a lot of the times we always think just because you're creative, it's a dream. It's not your life or your work or something sustainable and strong and has foundation. And I think it's up to us to show them that. And I think we are. I think even just you, like in the fact that you have started a platform that I don't think ever existed, ever. You know, I mean, you have a few of them, but where people, where you actually look into R&B in the way that you do,
Yeah.
That's content that is not being, it's not as, you know what I mean? So your kids are going to look at you and say, my dad did it. My dad has a whole entertainment, leg where he spoke about something he loved. And it's not just something you still were dreaming about and sitting on the couch thinking about, So yeah, I think we're going to change it, but I think we're going to change it because we're doing it and it's hard and we're doing the hard part.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you eventually managed to get your mom on side, because she was also an YouTuber, And so you moved to Jozi in 2011. After matric, you were coming here to come to varsity. And then you did your honors later on. So what course did you do again?
I did media studies.
Oh, media studies.
Yeah. I'm actually doing my master's now, funny enough, in communications. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, what changed? I think you've spoken about how part of your mindset changed when you came here to Joburg,
So like the vendetta coming to Joburg, like I had to trick my mom and my dad to say like, yo, I'm coming to study media. Like I'm going to be in the media industry and I'm going to have a job and I'm going to, be that daughter that they wanted. But I also knew like I had to strategically put myself in a place where I could make it as a musician as well.
Yeah.
So nothing really changed. It was just how do I play my options? And Wits was in Joburg. I loved the idea of being at Wits. And on top of that, I knew that I would meet artists and I would meet people just from a university perspective. So I spent a lot of my time in the theater at Wits. I spent a lot of my time, I spent a lot of my time in musical like spaces, even though I was doing this media thing on the side. So I wouldn't say anything changed. I think instead I sought out and looked for spaces that were conducive for this light that was still in the back of my head. Like, I really want to just make it as a musician. Like, how do I do that? How do I figure that out?
Yeah. And you're a journalist, editor, copywriter. What type of publication or content do you mostly deal with?
So I started off in corporate social investment, which is like CSR.
Yeah.
And I used to sort of write for companies in terms of like their sustainability, their SDG goals, like Vision 2030. And I kind of like that, because I am interested in development in general. I don't care how it looks. I love seeing communities develop. And I love, holding power into account. So I really enjoyed that. But I've also moved now into brands and branding. And so I worked a little bit for a brand agency where I was doing copywriting. And that was more like selling stuff. So the specific company was selling the country, actually, funny enough. So South Africa's brand in general. And now I'm getting a little bit more into retail. So I'm really just trying to figure out where and how I can, the sad part about being an independent artist is that you kind of have to find another way to make money while you're growing.
That's the thing.
And you've got to, and in the country that we live in as well, so I'm always trying to juggle those two things.
Yeah.
From a freelance perspective or an employment perspective, doesn't matter. I just know that for me to exist here, I need to make a living. And for me to grow as a woman, I need to make a living. It's unfortunate that like it takes so much from you as an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. And tell me about your time when you were doing covers and then eventually becoming a backup singer for the likes of RJ Benjamin in 2016, 2017, which, by the way, like gave me like a real throwback moment, because I knew the name from somewhere, and then I researched it and heard the song. I was like, wow, because at that time you were not that big, but you managed to become the backup singer. So how did that whole thing happen?
So in varsity, just to like uplift myself, I used to like do these covers with a friend of mine who was very close to me at the time. And he was just like, let's just do it, because YouTube was kind of growing at the time. And we didn't really know what that space was about, even though like we were in the media department. But I decided to do like covers. And as I went, a few people like sort of reached out. But then I met through my sister who was sending this video out, few videos.
Yeah.
So now they're deleted because wow, they're very, very embarrassing. But I sent them out, my sister sent it out to this guy, his name is Fortune Messina.
Yeah.
And Fortune happens to be Naked DJ's brother. I don't know if you know. Fortune Any Level, yes. And he was a rapper during his time. He used to work with Clint Brink, MXO, RJ Benjamin, and they had an album that they were, releasing. Yeah. And in that link, he heard my stuff, and he asked me to actually go to the studio with him, which I did. And from then, we kind of we had a good relationship. And because his band was traveling and singing, they were like, no, come through. Like, the least you can do is learn stage technique, and the most you can do is really learn from the greats in the specific industry. And so I managed through that experience with, I think the name of the band was called Therefore.
Yeah.
Through that experience, I managed to sing for people who I'd never dreamt I could sing for. And this is above and beyond me actually working. I was working at that time. Oh. So I just dedicated all my weekends to gigging and learning. And we actually performed at the SA Hip Hop Awards, which was really big for me at that time. And got a few spaces, it was really great. And I mean, like I said, like RJ Benjamin is one of the most, I don't know, like he's so beautiful in terms of harmony. He's so great when it comes to discipline. And it was such a great space for me to just learn and just figure myself out. Clint Brink welcomed me with open arms, and his voice is angelic and magical. And he always used to say, like, don't give up on yourself. MXO also like taught me how to be crazy and uninhibited on stage, because his music is, it's like you don't know what's gonna come out of his vocals, So they didn't know that I was learning so much from them. I was in the backpack, So that's how all of that kind of happened. And I don't even know if they would even remember me at this point, but I would really hope, I would really want them to just know that indirectly, they really taught me a lot about stage, a lot about hunger, a lot about all the things that, make up a good musician. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've once said that music plays a big part of your happiness. Is that still a thing, or even right now, especially with this new EP, with this new album? Yeah.
Not to call it anymore, because people are saying it's an album. I'm saying it's a project. They say it's an EP. You call it what you want to call it.
Yeah.
Music is my best friend, bruh. I don't want to lie to you.
Yeah.
I'm a loner. I'm two people. I'm very social. I have a lot of friends and I love them and family. But when I get home, my favorite thing to do is listen to soul, like old school soul.
Yeah.
Or R&B and all kinds of music, actually, if I'm being honest. So also I love hip hop as well. Yes, music makes me happy. Music makes me happy. Singing makes me ecstatic.
Yeah.
Singing brings me joy. Music makes me happy. And I know it sounds cliche, and I know, a lot of artists say that, but it's my best friend. It's where I get advice. It's where I get to cry. It's where I get to sleep. I sleep better with music on. I feel better when music's on. I'm a better person. I'm a kinder person when I'm listening to a song I like. So it does influence me in those ways. I don't think anything else can influence me in that way.
Yeah. There's a saying, right, that in the music entertainment industry as a whole, is a young man, woman's game. You released Ngoku as a sort of an ode to your 20s, a goodbye anthem to your 20s.
Yeah.
Yes, speak to me more about that.
I've always wanted to release an album, and there's been a lot of endeavors for me to do that, right? And a lot of them have failed.
Yeah.
22, I tried. I released 2 singles, It Goes Without Saying and Yankaza.
Yeah.
But looking back, I realized that all of the things that didn't work out, I didn't work out because I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't know what I was talking about. I was singing to sound good, and And I knew, like, if I was going to really, like, delve into music, I'd have to have some sort of experience of life.
Yeah.
I'd have to have something to say. I'd have to, respond back to my experiences. So it gave, so from those experience, I decided to sit back as a writer. I decided to sit back and evaluate how I was feeling. What was making me unhappy, what was making me happy at the time. And so I knew that I needed those experiences for Ngoku. And I didn't even notice Ngoku at the time. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew that it had to be real. It had to be my story. It couldn't be fake on any level.
Yeah.
Because again, like it's going to stay out once it's out. And I don't want to ever look back and regret anything, So I get it. It is a young man's game. I think music in general is a young man's game. And I did do the due diligence of being young and doing that, but I knew it didn't have substance for me. I mean, I couldn't write better. I couldn't think better because I didn't have the experiences. I didn't have that much heartbreak in my life. I didn't live, I hadn't grown into a woman who has opinions.
Yeah.
I didn't read it. I didn't explore enough. I didn't travel enough. And there's never enough, right? But there's just at least something that you can say, okay, I'm contributing this because of how I'm feeling. And I knew that was going to be important. So Ngoku is an ode to my 20s. It came out in this year for a reason,
Yeah.
It came out when I was done with that Viwe. That Viwe no longer exists.
Yeah.
She only exists on those songs. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm no longer that heartbroken. I'm no longer trying to be brave and, in a relationship and not care. I care now, but there were parts of me at 20 that didn't. There were parts of me at 20 that did. There were parts of me at 20 that were asking, what's love? Like, I don't get it. There were parts of me at 20 where I wanted to go home. I just hated that I couldn't figure it out. There were parts of me that were ready. There were parts of me that weren't. And that reflection happened as organically as it did. And I'm happy about that. I think the next album is going to be wild because now I kind of understand what it needs from me. And I am not just this, creative sitting in a room trying to figure out things. I'm living my life.
Yeah.
I'm noticing things about life. I'm opening my mind to different thoughts and different theories and ideologies and singers.
Yeah.
And those are the things that are informing me. And I'd rather be informed by that.
Yeah. And you spoke about next album. There's a saying that you have your whole life to make your debut album and you have a year to make your second. So yeah.
It took like 10 years to do Ngoku, so I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 strokes. You said you love me, but it's 2 strokes. You got me crying over 2 strokes. 2 strokes. Hey, Lord, you came over for 2.
Was 2 strokes a symbol of your rebellion from your quiet, calm, and pretty face mindset in your life? Because my brother, I was listening to 2 strokes and she was like, yo, damn, she really went in.
Man, I think yes. I was so afraid to write 2 strokes. Even in studio, they were like, no, go there. And I was like, no, they're gonna think I'm a crazy girl. They were like, no, girls go through this, right? Yes, I think I grew up and I was told all you have to be is quiet and pretty and obedient and submit and a guy is gonna love you. And that's just how it works, And I tried that And damn, that sucked because I found myself, it's like I found myself like in someone else's body. You know, I couldn't even feel like a woman. I couldn't say anything back. You mean all I have to do is be pretty? That's boring to me. That has no energy. That like there's so many pretty girls. Like, why don't you just go there? So Two Strokes is really like, even with, you know, drifting, if you think of the video of drifting, I'm smoking and I'm drinking on camera, like for a girl in Queenstown. like people are like, we didn't know you smoked. That's the first thing they said to me. We didn't know you drank hard liquor, you know. And I was like, that's what you got from that? You didn't even see that whole storyline of somebody who is pretty much you on any day as a woman. You know for a fact, if you've been like ghosted, you're gonna like find your vice, you know, and you're gonna try and I'm not saying it's a good thing, I'm just saying it's real. And I don't smoke in real life, you know. I do drink, but I don't smoke. But I knew that character needed to look almost like she needed to be, you know who I saw Nina Simone. And I saw a rawness. I saw a rawness that needed to come out, because that song is so true. It's such a true song in my life that I needed to make sure that people knew I was in the ghetto. I was in the gutter during that time. And so Two Strokes, I've had that experience, you know, and I know a lot of women have. And I know a lot of artists who have, you know, sang about that. If you think of 1 Minute Man by Missy Elliott, or just a number of artists who have gone there to say, you know what, like, you gotta come correct, because this looks great, but I'm not satisfied. And we're allowed to say that. We should say that. We should, you know, talk to our partners and say, we need more effort, man. It's not you. It's not that you can't. It's just that you're lazy. And I don't want a lazy guy, you know. I want you to think higher of yourself.
I mean, on both sides.
Think higher of yourself.
On both sides.
Exactly. And even me, even me. And I mean, men always sing about women and how lazy they are, or they rap about.
You're right.
You know, so it's not, you know, so it's not necessarily like a diss track. I'm not dissing you guys. I'm saying that exists. That reality exists. And the more we keep quiet and act like we don't deserve pleasure as women. I mean, even Rapture speaks about pleasure. Pleasure is so important to your well-being as a human being, and we need to fight for it. And that's what that song was. But also, yes, definitely rebellious song. Excited now because I'm sort of shooting the video soon, and it's gonna shock a lot of people as well. But I think that's important. That's important. It's important for me to bring life into like our daily experiences, because we, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things we can sing about in relationships. It doesn't always have to be like he hurt me or she hurt. It's like, no, actually, Two Strokes. Like, please, you know what I mean? There's so many ways in which we can approach things. So I also wanted to showcase that.
So drifting is a true life story, one where the relationship was on the brink of collapse and decisions had to be made. Decisions are something that you really struggle with, eh?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, when you kind of know a lot, and I'm not saying I do know a lot, because I think I know nothing, to be honest, like, I know nothing. There's so much to know. But when you know a lot about yourself, like, you know, there's this part, I'm a Gemini, so there's two parts of me that are always like fighting. The one is very logical, and she can write it down, and she gets me. She's like, okay, so if you go this way, it's gonna be like this. This is guaranteed. Like, this is what the stats say. But then there's this empathetic side of me, this side, who's like, but you're human. Like, you're gonna make mistakes. Like, forgive yourself, move on, forgive the next person. You know, life is short. Like, if this makes you happy, stay. You know, give people chances, try. And so these two voices are always like in my head, fighting for space. And that really makes it hard for me to leave or make a decision like abruptly, because I can actually on some level argue for both and be like, actually, on paper, you're not a great guy. On paper, you don't call. On paper, I see you once a year. On paper, you are cheating on me with 5 girls. But on the other end, I'm like, but you're in your 20s. Like, you're a kid. Like, you should be living your best life right now.
Yeah.
But when I'm with you, you show me love, and I feel good about that. And I know your whole history, and I know that you're a good guy, you know, and there's something to be said about that. And so, like, when are you gonna leave? When you can actually, like,
yeah,
you know, have compassion and still have logic about the situation. But I think once I learned boundaries, once I learned like future, like Viwe, what does future Viwe want? I had to make a decision. I have to make decisions, you know. I have to, like, sit down and be like, okay, pros and cons, this works for me, this doesn't work for me, and I'm going this direction, no matter what this other voice is saying. Yeah. So yes, drifting is a true life experience, but it was a decision-making experience too. So it's a very like important song for me, because I actually stood up and I was like, man, you can't make up another argument or in your head about how you're feeling, like how hurt you are, how sad this actually is, how the fact that you're sad 100% of the time should count for something. You know, whether or not you see the goodness in this guy, like whether or not you see the goodness or the future, or you don't, like right now, sis, this is not it, you know. And so I had to make a decision. But yeah, that's basically how my mind kind of works.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this, by the way. This is a dope.
Same.
For real.
But questions, you've done your research, damn.
So at that point of drifting, was it the same stage in lockdown where you were alone, isolated? Had you already left the relationship?
Yes. I went into lockdown with the breakup, like, leading me into it. And I had, like, no real outlet yet until I got the beat. And when I got the beat, and I remember, like, I wrote Drifting in a day. We recorded for longer, but we got the idea. And I remember like being in studio and thinking, and that's how I was really feeling. You know, I had no foundation or floor. Like, I just felt like I was in the middle of, like, heartbreak. And we did, I remember just us chanting drifting away at the studio with all the guys, and they were like, you gotta finish this. And I got home and I poured myself a glass of wine and I wrote that whole song, because I had just come out of it and I needed an outlet, and there was no one to go to because we were in isolation. So I was forced to be honest, and I was forced to be creative, and I was forced to really pull from the history I had with that person, you know. And so the relationship had just ended, and then we went into isolation.
So Verb is based on your love for clear communication. What would Tata be linked to from some of your love languages?
Tata?
It's my second favorite, really, by the way.
Is it? Really?
Yeah, like I always play it, you know.
Tata. That's dope. Tata was also quite a quick song to write. Like, not quick, but it is one of the first songs I wrote. After it was rapped, Tata, then Drifting. But Tata was like, it's physical, obviously my physical touch. I didn't want to get into anything like remotely emotional. I really did, because I'd just been like depleted. And I dated this guy from Drifting for about 10 years, you know? So it wasn't like I could just, you know, magically fall in love with someone else. I probably can't fall in love. I couldn't fall in love. I couldn't fall in love at that time. And so Tata was like, but I still, like, you know, I'm still a human being. And I also, like, I didn't have enough experience dating, right? And I was kind of like trying to figure out, like, what's the vibes? Like, how cool do I need to be? And Tata was born, you know. Okay, I need to be cool. I need to say the right things, don't be too clingy, don't, and it's crazy, right? But it's really like the next step of like moving on is like just go. Like I love Jasmine Sullivan. I don't know if you listen to Jasmine, but there's a song she had.
BTW. Have you heard it? Oh, wow.
Like that's my queen. And so I know that her album Hotels like speaks on that when she is singing about, I think it's called Lost One. The song is called Lost One.
Yeah.
Where she's like, you know when you lost one, a good one, you know when you lost one. And she's like, you go out and F different people to ignore all precautions. And as much as a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, no, you shouldn't do that. And that's not what I did, right?
Yeah.
But I got it because she's saying like, you just don't care about feelings after that. You don't care about the stories. You don't gotta lie to me. You don't gotta say, you're the girl of my dreams. You don't have to say that. Like, it's not about that right now.
Oh, okay. just gotta be
upfront. You gotta be upfront. But the interesting thing about that, Drew, is Yazi. I realized it wasn't for me. Like, like I wrote that song, but that's the least song that's about me because, like, I can't. I'm so emotional. I was still a crazy emotional person. You know what I mean? I couldn't switch to I wanted to be that girl. I still do on a lot of levels. I'm just like, I want to be like a bad bitch. You know, I want to just be like, yeah, that's what I did. But yo, no ways. I am, you know, I am interested in feeling something when I get into a relationship. I think I can't do it without. So yeah, that's where Tata came from.
Like, I actually really relate because that's kind of like something I've been going through like the last 2 years. Because like I had F buddies, right? For like I think the last 2 years after like my last long relationship, I was like, you know what? I am not gonna go to a relationship right now because like I'm still young. So let me have fun. And then I had the fun, but it's not worth it. It's nice, but it's not worth it.
It is just
like,
and you can't plan who you're not gonna like. Like it's like even if you do try, like 2 weeks later you're like, freak, I've caught feelings. What the hell's wrong with me? You know? Yeah. And like that up and down, it can be so gruesome for somebody who like is sensitive, you know. Yeah. So I can imagine. Yeah.
So in regards to What's Love, which is my favorite by the way, is what you're speaking of in the song and in other songs in the album, born from, as previously mentioned, your need for validation to be accepted socially and romantically?
I wouldn't say that's the validation song. I think if I would choose a song that I wanted validation for, is probably Ngoku. Because Ngoku is like the slap in your face. It's like, yo, you're gonna have to listen to me, and whether you like it or not, but I really want you to listen to me, you know? So there's that. But I think with What's Love, it was really, I was speaking to Link, because I co-wrote it with Lincoln, and we were both going through the same thing with the exes, where, you know, yes, I had broken up with this person, but they were still like wanting to be in my life.
Yeah.
And from a loving perspective, I was like, yeah, okay, like I can't hate him. Like, I'm not mad. I'm sad that it ended, but I can't hate him. But is it love? I don't think it's love.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I love you. You know, I think. But then I thought, like, what is it then? Like, how is it gonna feel when it does come? But I was also okay with this being curious about it. You know, I was okay with just finding like a new language around it. And What's Love is really finding a new language. And that's why it's like question based. Like, it's like, you know, like, what's that second line? If you've been in love for a minute,
tell me what's the secret. Like, that line is so crazy. Like, you know
what I mean? Like, tell me something, because I clearly don't know.
You know, like, you know, in our country, it's like everything comes number connection. You know, it's like you're going around asking, hey, what's the secret? How did you get this? You know. Yeah.
So it's really naivety, and I always want to be naive when it comes to love, because I think it grows and it changes, and you grow and you change. But I always want to figure out like what makes people stay in relationships, because also the relationships that I was hearing about from friends and sisters and guy friends, I was like, what are you doing in this relationship that does not serve you, you know? But you're still in it, and that's unconditional love. And a lot of people would have said that about me too previously, you know? So we're all sort of like in this place where we think it's love, it sounds like love, but is it? And should it be? Like, are we old enough to be talking this way? Should we allow for people to just show who they are first before we get into love? I think love, even the word, and I mean, I think it's overused, and I think it's abused, and I think we're no longer like looking at it as sacred. We're looking at it as free to give, and yes, it is. But I also think from a romantic perspective, like, we need to take our time before we figure out whether or not we love somebody and we want to be with them. And that's what that song is. It's just saying, I've got a lot of questioning to still do, and I will do it. I won't stop doing it, because it allows me to develop myself enough to meet somebody who's on that same level, and maybe then I can love them.
Yeah, and it's a great performance song too. You know, it really gets the crowd hyper. Definitely. I remember that night when it was at, it was crazy that night. Yeah, it was really crazy.
People love that song. They request that song. It's crazy. I'm like, nah, I got a whole set. Can you just wait for what's love? Yeah.
So what I'm taking from the album is that you tend to find yourself having so much faith in a person and jump into deep into the relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want people to have faith in me too. You know, Faith is a song that it was meant for the people who fully really wanted to be with me. Like, there were guys at that point who had great intentions. Yeah. And because of the heartbreak I had been in, and because of the exhilaration of the music I was making, I just knew that I couldn't give them my all. But I really needed them to see that it's not that you're not a great guy or you don't have anything great to offer. But I really need you to see that right now I really just want to be an artist, and I don't need any distractions. So have faith in that, in the fact that, you know, maybe one day you will figure it out. Yeah. But she needs to figure herself out first. So I really need you not to change. I really need you to just stay with me on this horse, because you don't want a Viwe whose mind and heart is elsewhere. And my mind and heart is in music now. It is in making this dream a reality. Yeah. So relationships and getting into them is a hard conversation. Like, you have to understand my lifestyle. You have to understand what I bring to the table. You have to understand that I won't always be there. I'll choose studio over you. Yeah. I'll choose performing over a day of Netflix and chill any day. Yeah. But I really want you to have faith in me, you know, because you still love me, and I see the love and I see it, and I have faith in you too. That's what that song was really about, you know. And Jump In is such a fun song. I wanted a love song. I wanted a good song. Yeah. But I wanted it to be really different. I didn't want it to sound like a love song. I wanted it to have a different Viwe, an almost sci-fi Viwe that just kind of sits on this magical world where I fall in love, you know. And I borrowed a lot of references from Sting, and I'm sure you can hear a few references from artists that I really like, just to have that effect. But I also, you know, loved Draper's verse. I think it was really good for that song. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, Jump In is the only song I can say it has a silver lining, and is just close your eyes and be creative and fall in love, you know. But what a hard song to write. What a hard song to take out of at that time, you know?
Ever since I've heard Rapture, you know, I've always told people that you have a bit of Beyonce in you. So like I wasn't surprised when you said that Beyonce is one of your references. Because like there's a part of Rapture, I don't know, man, like you really sound like her. There are parts of Rapture and other songs. I thought I was the only one who could see it, who could hear it.
Yeah. Beyonce, oh my God, like Beyonce changed a lot of my life. Because when I was young, I listened to like Destiny's Child. One of the first albums I bought was Destiny's Child. Yeah. And I studied her. I used to sing every song exactly like her. Yeah. Because I loved her runs. She could run from like the top to the end. And same with Jasmine Sullivan, like her runs. I'm like, how do I sing like that? And of course, I think in a lot of ways, because of that, the obsession I had, it kind of like resonates in little parts of my performance when I sing. Beyonce is on every level, and on every level, exactly what I think every singer or artist should aspire to be like, not just from a vocal space, just from like a really being about what you're about. So I do see her as someone that I definitely took a lot of lessons from, and I try my best not to sound like her, but I do get that reference. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, Beyonce Mxhosa, or Beyonce Viwe. I'm just like, no guys, please, that's the queen, okay? So but I hear you there is reference, and I definitely can hear it too. And for me it's not necessarily like trying to be like her, it's just really learning that note can be done this way. And I like that, and I like this note, So
like the other day I was on YouTube and I bumped across the song called Windeck. I'm not sure if you know it, like it's such a huge hit in South Africa at some point.
Windeck, that's on
Windeck.
Yeah.
It's like and like it reminded me of my childhood, like it reminded me of the phase of my childhood. So like which song reminds you of like childhood, your teenage years actually?
Oh my gosh, Omarion, Touch, Chris Brown, all of his albums.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Beyonce, Dangerously in Love.
Yeah.
Who was I listening to? Who reminds me of high school? Ooh, it's a good question. But definitely, like, I loved Omarion. Yeah. I loved Chris Brown. I loved Asha. Asha was somebody that, I didn't even know what You Got It Bad was about at that age. But I knew, like, the vocals were crazy. You Got It Bad. I sang it too many times for too many boys. Tiara on some level, I really liked. Also, I bought the Goodies album. I really liked Goodies. The Goodies. All of those songs kind of made me feel like R&B didn't have to be so slow. Like she always made me feel like we could dance, we could have a good time.
Yeah.
Those are the artists. The crazy thing there that you just asked is that what reminds me of my teen years. But when I was listening to music, when I was younger, I was always hoping for the future. Like it was always for the future. So I was, you know what I mean? So I was listening to like Nina Simone, for instance, not because it wasn't young, it wasn't a young expression. Billie Holiday, not a young expression. Lauryn Hill is probably the closest thing to, I'm gonna end it there. I think Lauryn Hill is my teenagehood. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, that whole album is my life. Like I know every song on like I know everything she says on that album. That album is my teen. But there's so many artists, like it's hard to choose one.
Yeah. Like I've noticed that no matter what stage you are in your career, whether it's just for your debut song or after you took your hiatus or even now, like you've always found yourself on the biggest platform, TV, you've been on the Morning Live so many times, and you've been, like talking to upcoming R&B artists, like what do you do to put yourself out there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so the first thing I'd say is just like, make sure the songs are great, right? Because whoever's listening to your songs needs to buy into whatever it is you're selling.
Yeah.
One. I find that a lot of the people give me interviews, they give me the chance to speak because Rapture has become their favorite song. It's the song that they're listening to the whole week and they're like, I need to speak to this girl. Or Drifting is, or, you know, Tata is. And I think that has everything to do with the fact that I had that experience thing I talked to you about.
Yeah.
And then it became authentic to people when they listened to it. They were like, oh, actually, like, she thought about this. She didn't just wake up one day. So I always say, like, invest in your craft because your craft will take you anywhere. Your craft will take you where you need to go. So invest in your craft, but more than anything, like, don't take no for an answer. Like, find out who is the producer at Morning Live, at Espresso. Find out who you need to send the emails and send it every day.
Yeah.
Send it every day. Call them every day. Figure out why they say no. Like, why you don't like my music? Okay, sharp, then I can't change it. But if you like my music, there's no reason why you're gatekeeping my music, you know, except that you don't want me to succeed. And I always challenge journalists because I was a journalist, and I'm like, okay, so you're saying no, but you're not giving me reasons. Is it your editor? Okay, so editor, let me talk to your editor. You know what I mean? Like, don't take no for an answer. And also remember, like, you are a business. You're not just a singer in this country. You're not signed. So if you're not signed, like, you've got to take yourself like you're a product, trying to sell the product. I never say no to opportunity. It doesn't matter, like, how many people are going to see it. If it's Morning Live, or if it's, you know, a podcast, or if it's Flickr Online, which is also a huge platform, right? Like, all of those people, like, all they're doing is taking your product and putting it into a mass space, a space where more people can hear it. So you gotta come correct. Like, you can't come here with a song that sounds like you want to be someone else. And I think that's one of the big issues why artists don't get booked or get put into. I'm not saying it's the only reason, right? Because I do think there's gatekeeping. I do think there's people like favors and you know this person and network. But I also think it's very important that you bang. You better bang, ma'am. You better bang, sir. And not just because you sound like someone. Because you sound, oh, you remind me of Usher, or you remind me of Beyonce even. You've got to bang in a way that Africans will relate to. You're South African. Don't forget your South African. Don't forget your heritage. Don't forget the things that people are absolutely living through every single day. And yes, we have a global culture now. You put your song out on Spotify. My song's been listened to in different countries and it's crazy to me. Yes, but I'm singing closer still. Like, I'm not going to go there and sing in a way that they already know. So I think, bang, find out your audience and don't take no for an answer.
Yeah, well put. So you've known Draper for about 10 years now. Was he and Lincoln one of the influences for you joining Unmuted?
Yes. I had been looking for a home for a long time because before that, I had 2 singles, It Goes Without Saying, and Young Kaza, and the person I was working with wasn't necessarily like interested in creating a home. He was more interested in getting singles out for different artists, and even when we did try that, it just didn't feel like it was the right time, or it was well received in a way. So I knew Draper because Draper had a whole history. He had a whole group called Manyora, and they used to perform at Wits. And this group was a rap group, and they were extremely talented. And I used to always like watch them. I knew him before that, but I knew that he was in the music industry, and I knew how good he was. Because he's a producer and he's a rapper and he's a writer. So I've always had that respect for him from a friend level. And Lincoln, I didn't know. You know, I never met Lincoln. But I met him through Draper. And when I met them, like that first day, it was like a test. They were like, okay, here's a beat, right? Let's go. Thank God for like the experiences I've had, right?
Yeah.
Of singing live, of YouTube channels,
Yeah.
of 2 songs out. Like all of that sort of came into that moment. And I always say to artists, like, don't sweat your journey. Don't sweat your journey. Like, let the process happen, because you will need those lessons somewhere. And I think they kicked in when we did that. They loved it. I loved it. It was a great relationship. And because we had that friendship, it still is, it still is so, it's one of my favorite places to be, the studio. And not just because we make music, but because we're friends, because we laugh, because we challenge each other's writing, because we allow ourselves to be the worst and the best version of ourselves. And I like that, And if I could be an independent artist for Unmuted and make the money that an artist makes, like, I would stay there. I wouldn't move, because those are the kind of conversations that make you write better. Those are the kind of conversations that make a well-rounded project that says something about you. And they're so talented, and they're also learning. It's just a really nice space. So yes, they are the reasons I'm with Unmuted. And they are the reasons why I'm staying with Unmuted. Because of the friendship we have and the respect we have and the want that we have for each other to be great, because I believe they are great as well.
There's going to be an Unmuted concert later on this year also. What date is that going to be? Or do you have a date?
We haven't finalized the date. No, we haven't finalized the date. I think a lot of things that we want to iron out from a brand sponsors perspective. But there is a live show that I'm planning.
Yeah.
And that's going to be around Mother's Day, and it's going to be a Ngoku live experience. You'll probably get to know about it a little bit in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
I'm just figuring it out. So there's quite a few things happening. We've got Sound of the Nation, which is our piano leg. We've got Over a Good Time, which is more of an event. Our leg. We're joining with another group. I don't want to speak prematurely, and there might be a huge concert in Sun City at the end of the year. But yeah, Unmuted is growing in leaps and bounds, and it's exciting to see.
Yeah. And to you, what do you define as success? The crazy thing about this is that I watched an interview of yours, and I was so sad when they asked the question in that line, in that lane, because this is like my favorite question to ask. So yeah, what do you define as success?
That's funny, because I didn't know how to respond to that, because I was like, how do I define success? And I actively, like, when I was recording, was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm thinking on my feet, and I wish I had said more.
Yeah.
So I'm happy you asked. The ability to do music and survive, and not just survive, prosper, and be successful is very important to me. I want to be able to take my kids to school because of my music. I want to be able to build home because of my music. I want to be able to build business and put on young people because of my music. That's success to me.
Yeah.
And also, like, really, like, from a personal perspective, like, I think being happy in that, like, being content. I want to feel contentment. I want to feel like I did the best I could do with what I had. And I don't always feel like I want something else to validate me.
Yeah.
I don't know when that like happened, but I feel like happiness is right there. It's right next to this dream of making music like a real lifestyle for me, but also being happy that it is the way it is, and not being grateful for it, staying in the gratitude and not allowing for my ambition to eat away from the experience and the feelings of happiness that may exist, So that's success, bro. How would you say is it for you for House of
Success? Oh, for me, my dreams are crazy, bro. Like, I want. Do you remember the time when I used to be a hip hop scholar? I did everything. Like, when it's all about hip hop, like, I did everything before these new guys came in. Like, they used to joke about me about the baggy pants I wore. Like, I only used to shop. This is shop. It was called Hip Hop Connect or whatever. Like, I would refuse clothes like for 3 months, 4 months. Like my students would get clothes all the time, and I would like tell my mom like save up. Let's save up.
This is what I'm getting.
And then we get the money, we go to that shop and buy babes and buy those jeans with an M at the back. Like that's how deep I was, you know. So like what I want like a revolution, like how hip hop happened, you know, how at that time hip hop took over, like how right now Amapiano took over. Like I want to be there, you know, because we're getting there. Like I want to spur it. Like yeah.
I love that.
You get me.
It's more. It's like activism, but also just being there for that big change.
Yeah. So that's my dreams are crazy. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So this is a really crazy interview, wonderful interview, and I wish you all the best. And the Two Strokes music video is coming out when? Or you don't know the date?
I should be shooting it soon. Like I'm shooting it hopefully end of this month. So maybe end of April. I'm gonna put that out into the universe. End of April, we're gonna see the Two Strokes video. Yeah.
All right. This was the Viwe Ngoku interview, and I apologize for the light, but then you just need the audio. Thank you so much. And yeah, this is another episode of The Breakdown. Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Drew. That was amazing, man. That was amazing.